The following segment is sponsored by El Tigre Silver Corp., trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol ELS.V and on the OTCQX as EGRTF. El Tigre Silver Corp. Is focused on silver exploration and development in prolific Sonora State, Mexico. Find them on the web at eltigresilvercorp.com. Join me for a conversation with a frequent guest of the show, David Morgan, the Silver Guru, an expert on money, metals, and mining, also a lecturer and an author. Mr. Morgan has written Get the Skinny on Silver Investing, available on Amazon.com. His website is themorganreport.com. David, welcome back to the program.
Good to be with you, Ellis.
Are we seeing a contraction or a rout with regard to gold and silver?
Well, I'm not sure what to name it, Ellis. I think obviously I guess I'd use the word rout. I don't want to play a semantics game, but we have really got hit hard in the precious metals if you're bullish, which of course I am. I wouldn't say I'm a perma-bull from the aspect that, I have called the tops and bottoms pretty much all the way up and down. Not perfectly, but put my record against almost anybody's. I called the 840 top, the $21 top, and the $48 top, and got all those almost perfectly. Bottoms I haven't been quite as good at, but I've gotten close on all the major bottoms. On the intermediate term trends, I guess my track record is fair. Basically, it's really impossible for anyone to say, I know exactly where they're going to go. I mean, the whole idea between technical analysis is probability, really, and the probabilities are higher at some times than others. And the way I trade is to make the market prove itself. In other words, I'm not telling the market you're going higher, I'm telling the market this is a bottom. I'm saying, I think this could be a bottom, and if that were true, this is what the market would have to do to prove it. And once it's proven that, then I'm going to make this action, and that's what I do on the over-the-shoulder service, which is part of your subscription to the Morgan Report. Quite honestly, Ellis, I haven't really had any trades on for quite some time because I've been, like everyone else, watching closely, almost daily, to what's been taking place in the market, and it's really disheartening. It really is. I mean, I'm one of the big bulls out there, I guess one of the leaders. I don't like to think of myself as anything special, believe me, I don't. But I do take it to heart. In other words, I know there are people that follow my work closely, either that, are on the membership service where they get, greater insights. For example, why wouldn't I be trading now and why can't I pick a bottom here, that type of thing. Versus people that just listen to shows like yours that get, I think hopefully useful information to help them navigate this very difficult time, difficult from the aspect that we're seeing price behavior that does not match the reality of the economic environment.
David, we've gone below the $30 an ounce benchmark for silver, and in the past it's always been a buying opportunity when we've had this conversation. I have to ask you again, do you still feel that way today?
Yeah, I think I've stayed consistent here. I mean, I'm only human, and I certainly do my best. And I've stated for quite some time that $30 silver or less is a great buying opportunity, longer term, and longer term, I mean 3 to 5 years out, and to take advantage of that. And, I was saying that back for months. I've been saying that for months. Of course, we've been above that mark until recently, and now we're below that mark, and of course, the sentiment has been falling pretty much the whole time because people that bought in at higher prices than that, and I have myself, I bought a little bit above the 30 mark. I'm pretty disciplined, but again, I'm not perfect. Regardless, yes. And the other part of the question really is, where is the bottom? I mean, there's people out there saying silver's going back to 12, there's some saying to 20, and the answer is I don't know. But no one else knows either. I mean, you can forecast whatever you want. What I have stated for the record in my members-only portion, and probably in the public once or twice, is I do think that the 26 level that we have visited like 3 times previously will hold. And the reason I say that is because we've tested it 3 times. Now this again is technical analysis, probability theory if you will. What's interesting is to delve deeper into that. And all the times that it's gone into that level, it's rebounded very quickly. So what that means is the physical market at those levels is very strong, where it takes very little buying at that price level for the market to come back up. In other words, it's kind of like one of these loss leaders that you see. You used to see them quite often on TV. You see them in the auto industry sometimes. It's like, well, here it is. We've got a brand new 2013 truck. This truck hasn't, goes through all this stuff. It says, and this truck is only $20,022. And of course, those trucks are selling for like $35,000. But they've got one of those available. It's similar to that. It's like you've only got, so many ounces of silver available at $26. Now, could I be wrong here? Yeah, I could be. But what we do have is fact. And what I just stated is fact. And the fact is that every time silver's gotten into the low 26s, it hasn't stayed there very long, and not much has been available at that loss leader price, if you want to think of it in those terms. I think that would hold. Now, if it doesn't hold, then like any technician, and this makes you talk out of both sides of your mouth, we got to re-examine. But I'm not going to re-examine that until it becomes a fact, because I don't think it's going to become a fact. I think anything under 30, I don't think you have to buy everything today. Could we go lower? And I think probably we will. These type of sell-offs are usually defined in a waterfall decline. It usually takes about 3 days in a row, and then high volume. And recently we hit a death cross in the gold market, and this is where the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average cross to the downside, which has happened recently. And a lot of technical stuff works. Plus, what's so interesting about it is how the floor traders react and are almost like a Pavlov's dog situation, where a lot of these technical indicators are just so tightly held belief systems that reaction, the knee-jerk reaction, will take place regardless of anyone looking at the fundamentals or not. Most of these floor traders don't know anything about the fundamentals of the commodities that they trade on a daily basis, because they're in and out and in and out and in and out all day long. And some of the longer held position traders are in and out maybe on a weekly basis. And there's not that many that hold positions for long periods of time, although that does occur. That's fairly rare. The people that are really making their living trading are usually in and out of the markets very often. Point being that this death cross situation has put up more negative sentiment. So I would say one of the best indicators that you should really want to buy silver under 30 and gold at the $1,600 level or lower. And I think I was using $1,550 on gold, but I don't want to misstate it. But anything I'd say under 16, you're probably quite safe on a longer term basis. Is these kind of sentiments where everybody, even the most ardent gold bull, is really starting to get very, very frustrated. And it's psychology. They're winning when you're losing on a mental basis. If you're thinking they're right because of the price alone, then you're not thinking very strongly in my book. The reason being is that, you're supposed to buy low. You're supposed to take advantage of the market. The market's now at a point that hasn't been for quite some time in the silver market and the gold market. And this is opportunity. Now, there's really hardened investors out there that probably didn't have a gold position, have been waiting for silver to be under 30 and waiting for gold to get under 1,600, and they're saying good. And these type of people are disciplined. They're going to start to accumulate in this level.
We'll be right back. The Ellis Martin Report is sponsored by El Tigre Silver Corp, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol ELS.V and on the OTCQX as EGRTF. Silver has been considered a precious metal for 6,000 years and currency since 600 BC. It's been commercially mined in Mexico since 1530 in mineral-prolific and mining-friendly Sonora State, where El Tigre Silver Corp's 5,000-meter drill program is now underway. El Tigre's properties with gold and silver mining concessions span approximately 267 square miles. With an attractive share structure and a strong, proven management team, El Tigre Silver Corp is poised to identify a resource in an area that from 1903 to 1938 produced 75 million ounces of silver and 380,000 ounces of gold. Additionally, their tailing stockpile is currently progressing to production. Learn more about El Tigre Silver Corp by visiting their website, eltigresilvercorp.com, or click through El Tigre's logo on the homepage of our website, ellismartinreport.com.
We offer expert opinions only. Find them on our website, ellismartinreport.com. That's ellismartinreport.com.
And we're back. Can we expect to see some of the big funds accumulate more bullion again?
Great question. I can't disclose a total lot, and some of it is based on sources that are good sources. So let me just say, treat what I'm about to say as conjecture, not as fact or a strong opinion. I have been recently given information, and I've been very recently, there's actually purportedly 3 major funds coming online, one right after the other. And these are vulture-type funds, meaning that they are going to come in and buy massive quantities of mining shares and bullion for the sole purpose of basically a buy-and-hold strategy for the next 5 years. And to me, that's aligned exactly with what a prudent investor does. This is something that, take advantage. The public is panicking. They wish you never heard the word gold before. Even stalwarts like Jim Sinclair. Sure, I'm going to speak for Jim, and I don't mean to, but I'm sure the amount of emails he's getting must just be unbearable. I mean, I know how many I'm getting. Just a lot of worrywarts out there, and they're saying, this is the end, and it's over, and I never should have bought gold, and on and on. And Jim, who's probably got the best record of anybody I know with, remember, I'm old enough to have gone through one whole cycle of the bull market in the precious metals and the 20-year bear market, and now 10 years into the new bull market. So I'm not as old as Sinclair. I'm a good decade or so younger than he. Nonetheless, I think his birthday's coming up the end of March or something. He made a statement, which is a bold one at that, but I wouldn't bet against Jim Sinclair that this will be over, meaning this washout bottom, that's what I'm calling it, not him, would be done by his birthday, which is the end of March. So if he's right, we've got maybe another month of pain or so. Regardless, I don't see any reason to give up here. This, again, is an opportunity, but most people don't say it. So people run on their emotion, not on the fact. Fact is, if you were patient and waited for it to get under 30 again, and no one knew if it would or it wouldn't. I mean, I thought we'd probably be in the 30th area, and I have to go back and check, what I said to my members on any given day to get exactly right. I don't want to misstate anything, but I know what I said about the ultimate low. I said the 26 that we already went through. So, again, look at it for what it is. It's a price. It doesn't change the fundamental fact of what's going on in governments, doesn't undermine the idea that the zero interest rate policy is basically a situation that cannot continue forever, that governments around the world are trying to print their way out of a deficit situation that is beyond their control, and every reason for owning gold and silver have never been better. And then the thing, if you look at it from perhaps a humorous perspective, is something to laugh at. And the reason I say that is, look, you've got this situation with Germany not too long ago, which is frontline news for, the gold arena. And they wanted their gold back. And then more recently we had this publication on the internet and the mainstream that, this audit's been performed. And oh yeah, the gold's there. In fact, some of the gold is even higher grade than they thought it was. Well, this is preposterous because if you think about it, what they're saying is, we got all the gold. Well, if they have all the gold, then why can't Germany get their gold back? I mean, come on. Of course, they were auditing the U.S. gold, right? Well, why did they audit all the gold, and who owns it, and where is it, and on and on? I mean, it's like a magic trick you're doing to a 3-year-old. They don't understand enough of the world to really have a much of a perceptive base or enough experience to really know what's going on. And you can fool them quite easily at age 3, but you can't fool them as easily at age 13. The powers that be, I'll call them, are trying to pretend that we are that ignorant, that they do this cursory inspection and publish this thing on the mainstream about don't worry, everything's fine behind the curtain. We took a peek and see, it's fine. And yet these obvious questions about, if it's so fine, then why can't Germany get its gold back? I mean, this stuff drives me nuts, Ellis, but it doesn't dissuade me from knowing that the metals is probably, not only is it probably, I feel strongly it's the best place to be on an investment basis. If you want to drill down further, maybe a viable business would always be good. Education yourself is always good, and preparedness. I mean, I never really use the word prepper very often, but I think in today's world, I think it behooves people to think that through. Are you prepared for a disaster? I mean, as we're doing the interview, Mount Etna just, went off this today, I guess, in Sicily, Italy. I don't know what the exact situation is. So there are signs out there that things are not normal, economically, globally, politically, trade-wise, currency-wise, health-wise, weather-wise. I mean, you can just go down the whole list, and I don't want to be Mr. Gloom, but I think I can be Mr. Realist and say, look, take a hard look and ask yourself this question. Do a thought experiment and say, I don't own any gold or silver. Now, almost everyone listening to the show does, but just think about it. I don't own any gold and silver as a thought experiment and say, if I were to take a hard look objectively today at what's going on not only globally in the world, but financially, the monetary system, etc., what would I do? And, if you have a better answer than getting into the precious metals, getting into, some kind of preparedness situation, paying down your debt, living within your means, maybe saving more than you have before. In other words, hunkering down and being prepared financially, being prepared mentally, being prepared physically, then great. I've just giving you my opinion. I mean, a lot of stuff that we do is factual based. I'm a degreed engineer. I think very logically. I think very factually. I think very objectively. But I'm still human. I certainly have emotions, and when I have an opinion, again, I try to preface it with that, but it's my strong opinion that you got to take kind of a holistic view of this situation, and to think that your leaders are going to really care about you or take care of you or be there for you is something think you need to rethink.
Well, we went from positive conjecture to, well, you better prepare yourself for the worst.
Probably. I do move around, Ellis, as you know, and just kind of a stream of consciousness. I just, started spurting out my thoughts and emotions on the situation. I'm frustrated. I mean, I admit it. I don't like seeing gold and silver get hammered continually for no real fundamental reason. But there's a lot of fear in the market. And that's, again, an advantage to an astute investor. I mean, you want to buy when you're fearful. You want to sell when there's glee. I mean, I had the highest rating ever when silver was going through the, $35, $40, $45 mark, which was really a short time. And, I specifically was saying above 35, especially, be careful, be careful, be careful. Do not buy all you want. And, please, if you have to buy some, don't buy all here, and on and on. And I recently got an email from one of my members, and he's very upset. And that's very understandable. I don't know his exact price. He didn't tell me. But he bought much higher than now, and, he's been holding probably for a year or two. And he's just very discouraged. And that is the psychology of the market. In fact, I just put something out on Twitter that I did a year ago, and it's on my Twitter feed, which is, I think it's Silver Guru 22 is the Twitter feed. I think you can find it on Twitter pretty easy. And it says, what's happening with the metals, an interview with David Morgan about smashing the precious metals. I did that a year ago, but it's as pertinent today as it is right now. In fact, it's basically more of an in-depth interview done with this lady named Sherry, who has a blog called Sherry Questioning All, on the psychology. And the psychology is where they win the war on this thing. It's if they can make believers become non-believers in the precious metals, and people that don't think that there's an economic recovery believe that there is a recovery, they will turn out to move out of one asset class and the other, or sell their metal at a low, or move on to something else. And the longer they can keep that psychological advantage, I'll call it, the longer you'll see the market in an area where we probably, don't think it belongs. But there's enough strong hands out there, people that can't be swayed by this psychological maneuvering, that will hold and also, again, take advantage of it. Again, I want to come back and kind of be on a positive. I mean, this information I got about these purported funds coming on, what I was told was these were, massive amount of fiat, massive amount of currencies coming in, not all U.S.-based, by the way, and they're just looking for real things. I mean, look at what China's been doing. Have they really slowed down that much? Not really. I mean, they have bought real assets in the ground with their recycled U.S. debt or credit instruments. That tune really hasn't changed that much. The fundamentals haven't changed, but people can't rely on them or get discouraged again from price activity. Price activity is what it is. I mean, certainly if you were in a situation and you bought silver at $40 and you had to sell today because, of your economic conditions personally, you are not going to be happy. And believe me, I understand that. I've been in a situation similar years and years and years ago myself. But it happens, and what can I say? Maybe if you looked at it versus a different investment, it might be better or worse, depending on what you choose. But, people have to live within the parameters of reality, and I think there's a very low amount of that around anymore. A lot of it is just so much psychological maneuvering based on what these major market trends are, and most of these markets are manipulated to a high degree.
Well, I'm encouraged by our conversation, and I did see that the central banks did accumulate a large amount of gold bullion a short while ago, and that went almost unannounced. So this has been a positive conversation, in my opinion.
Well, I hope it's been real. Always try to make it real, and hopefully a little bit of humor in there. And, we'll just have to wait and see. Again, I'm as anxious to see if Jim Sinclair is correct as the next person out there, thinking he's saying, again, the end of March. So, again, roughly that's a month from now. I just don't see that this can go on a lot longer. Usually the bottoms are very, very much spike bottoms. In the silver market particularly, again, we'll have to see.
Most of our listeners know how to find you, but for those that are hearing you for the very first time, talk about your website.
Sure. The website is silver-investor.com. And from there, you can get on the Twitter feed or independently, which is Silver Guru 22 on Twitter, and a YouTube channel is Silver Guru. Seems like most people these days are either looking at the Twitter feed or the YouTube feed or both. And usually any interview that I do like this, we post up on both on the Twitter and also on the YouTube channel. And it's a good way to get my opinion. Some want it and some don't. Some probably wish they never had it. It all depends on where they are in the cycle. But regardless, it's kind of a nice place because it's all cataloged for you, and you can kind of peruse the subject lines and listen to a few that you think might be a benefit to you.
David, again, thanks for joining us today. It's been a great conversation.
My pleasure, Ellis. Thank you.
I've been speaking with the Silver Guru, David Morgan. Find him on the web at silver-investor.com or themorganreport.com. And listen to this segment again on the podcast page of our website, ellismartinreport.com. This segment has been sponsored by LT Gray Silver Corp, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol ELS.V and on the OTCQX as EGRTF. LT Gray Silver Corp is focused on silver exploration and development in prolific Sonora State, Mexico. Find them on the web at ltgraysilvercorp.com.